Alright, this is going to be a weekly recap from the 11th of July to the 15th of July, and I had a total of 6 trades, which is a bit less than usual, and all of them were green setups. Now, the main issue that I had this week, which I already made a note, despite the fact that my stats were pretty good, is that I need to trade my dollar risk level and I need to use alerts for high day breakout setups. There were a few stocks that made a really nice move towards the upside, and I just was not a part of it because it broke the day high later when I was no longer looking at it. And this could be the kind of thing where it's just a step towards the right direction. I'm able to trade more because I have alerts. I'm actually using stocks to trade alert system, and I can be able to be more profitable and maybe have more trades, and ideally good trades on good setups like high day breakout setups. That was pretty much it in terms of what I had to do better, and I also need to stick to my dollar risk level. As you can tell, my current dollar risk level is $30. If you can check the description on the video and also my stats, it's been $30 now. This is the second week. I have not been trading the right amount of size. As you can see, this one was pretty bad. I actually should have had twice the amount of shares, it seems like, right? And that would have brought it to just under $30, which would have been fine. But there were a lot of these where I just did not trade enough. And the only one where I did trade the right amount of size was this one. And this was a listed stock, so I traded close to a $5 risk level here. And this one kind of messed with the stats a little because I took a $1,700 position, which is not very common at all. But because it is such a high priced listed stock, the QQQ, I did trade a very large position, and the percent gain wasn't very much again because it is a high priced stock, but that did kind of mess with my stats. It does show that I traded a bit more. I made $19 this week, and that was with $2,300 of trading volume. But if I were to take this one away, that would be $19 trading $585, which is actually pretty good. Let me just see what that would be. Yeah, that would have been 3%. So making 3% of what I put into the, stock market day trading. Anyway, let's just go ahead and go over the setups one by one. I do need to, again, this is the main thing, but the trades were not that bad. I think I traded pretty well on the majority of these. Let's look at the first setup, which is TXTM. It looks like a morning panic bounce play, high or low. Let's look at TXTM for the 11th. The 11th is going to be right here. So I think it was what? Yeah, just a regular morning panic bounce play, high or low. Let's highlight the 11th, which is right here. I was in at 950 at 63, and this was exactly 950 at 63. It wasn't like 63 and a half. 950 was right here, and I was in at 63. Why? Morning panic bounce play. It drops from the 72s. It gets as low as the 60 level, has a bounce, and then it comes back, and now this is a higher low, higher than this low, and it's also playing around VWAP, which makes it ideal. And this one really worked out. It looks like it got as high as 70, although it doesn't seem like the volume is very strong. It did make a nice move towards the upside. It didn't break the day high, but it got close to it. And I did get out at 10:11, which is much later at 637. So 10:11 is when I got out ultimately right here at 637. So it would have been right here. What it meant was that I sold in pieces right here at 10:11 being my last piece, and my average was 637. So just around right here maybe was when I sold. And yeah, it looks like it didn't really do too much when I got in it right here at 950, even though over a longer period of time it did get higher to 72. I'm going to guess that I did my best with what I did on this trade, but yeah, this could be something where I could just risk VWAP not breaking, over a longer period of time, or have some kind of a super slow uptrending trend line, and maybe that can help me sell some more positions at a much higher price. You can see I can kind of draw one off of this right here. From this level to this level, it kind of follows this one. And if I were to extend that to the right, it did eventually downtrend, and with the low volume, maybe I would have been better off, selling here with this in mind than to just sell in pieces little by little, especially because of the fact that there's no volume. Maybe if I can have a trend line, even though the volume isn't that nice, I could probably try to do better. Let's look at the next trade, which is QQQ. And this was a reversal long trend line break. Let's look at QQQ for the 12th. All right, and the 12th is going to be right here. Not a very significant day, but the pattern that was going on was something that I had an interest in trading, and the 12th is going to be the next day right here. Let's go ahead and highlight it right here. And I was in at 1208 at 289.55, so 1208, and that was much later right here at this 288 level. No, it says 289 at 1208. 1208 was right here, but I don't see where it says 289. I'll be back and make sure that I have the right numbers, because that doesn't seem like it's correct. All right, I am back. I was able to resolve the issue. The numbers were right, as in what time I bought and sold, as well as the prices, but this was actually on the 11th, not the 12th. So I already have the right chart, and I was in again right here at 1208 at this 289.55 level. And this was a reversal long setup with a trend line. So what essentially that means is that I was watching this downtrend right here, and I'll try to draw a trend line similar to what I had the day I was trading it. But as you can see, there was this downtrend right here, and when it got to the point that it broke past the trend line, I didn't just buy immediately, something that I have done very often, which was never something that worked out. Ethereum, if you're looking at a 4-hour chart, actually did something like this, and I'm pretty salty that I didn't realize it until it happened. The same trend line reversal setup. In fact, let me actually get a chart of Ethereum, and I'll just briefly go over it. Okay, as you can see here with Ethereum, this is the same setup in theory that I traded with the QQQ, and you can take a look and see how it's been downtrending over a longer period of time. And something that I've done which was wrong was that as soon as a trend line would break, I would immediately buy, but sometimes it doesn't just uptrend, although it did here. It seems to work much better when it breaks a downtrending trend line, especially again something significant as this was right here from the 3,000 level, dropping as low as it even got below 1,000 at some point. So when it breaks a trend line, it doesn't always uptrend, but the idea is that it really works out more often than not. When it breaks it, it uptrends perhaps, or just consolidates, or even downtrends, but then eventually over a longer period of time, it has proven to no longer be a part of this downtrending trend line. And in this example, it did consolidate. Once it broke past it a little, it uptrended, and then it downtrended. And as you can tell, this was no longer over here according to this downtrending trend line. And then once you see a sign that it's reversing, super profitable. And this was a nice move from this 1100 level now to the 1400s. And I feel pretty salty. I did swing trade this a bit. I did actually buy some right here, and I sold one piece I think in the 1200s, and then I sold the other piece for like a downtrend around this level right here. I was pretty much break even, and then I bought another piece around here, and then I sold I think at like 1128. It wasn't that much. I totally missed out on the opportunity right here once it finally broke this downtrending trend line, and it had a downtrend, but then it didn't get back to the line. It just consolidated even more, and then once it started the reverse, this was a great entry in the 1100s, and now at 14. So that was the same idea with the QQQ. It downtrended, it did uptrend here, right? But if you take in mind that it kind of downtrended, broke past it here, and then it downtrended again, but it kind of started to consolidate. Same thing with Ethereum. And then it started to reverse. That's why I got in right here at 1208 at that 289.55 level. That was exactly why I got in. And I did get out at 1212 at 289.84. So 1212 was right here. 289.54 was when I got out. I eventually got out right here on the wick. And just to be sure, yeah. Oh no, not 54, 289.84. I was like, that was kind of low. Yeah, 1212 was right here. 289.84. Still on the wick, but not that low. And it did uptrend over a much longer period of time, which was pretty cool. It even got to the 290s. And yeah, that's essentially the thing with this. I definitely regret not being a part of Ethereum because this was the same exact setup. And this isn't the first time I've seen something like this work. Ideally, I can be able to trade something like that in the future if it happens again. Let's look at the next trade, which is WNFT, and that's on the 12th. Let's look at WNFT for the 12th. The 12th is going to be right about here. Not a very significant looking day on this chart, but it is down a lot. Let's look at the 12th. And it looks like something that did turn around over a longer period of time. I got in at 952 at 70. Let me zoom in a bit more. I got in right here at 952, and that was at 70. 70? Yeah, at 952, 70. I don't see 70. I guess I have another mistake with my spreadsheet. I'll be back and make sure I got the right numbers, or maybe I have the wrong day again. Alright, it took 2 seconds to realize it just zoomed in on the wrong day again. Uh, I had a pretty rough day today just working on my car, and I would be lying if I didn't say I feel a little tired. This was a setup right here, and I got in at 952, the 70 level. This makes a lot more sense. So essentially, I got in this because this was a morning panic bounce play imperfect. So it did have a morning panic bounce play. I mean, in theory, it did drop from the 77 level as low as the 68 level, roughly 10%, but it's clearly not a nice looking one, especially how it has these blips right here, and it's not really trading with much volume. There isn't a lot of price action, but I still took the setup because I saw the pattern. And again, I was in right here at the 70 level at 952. And I did get out of this trade at 956, and my average was 72.16. So 956 was right here when I got out of my last piece. And my average was this 72.16 level. Yeah, I just got in the setup. It wasn't doing much, but it was looking like, I think at the time it was trying to break the 70 seller at the ask, and once it did have a quick uptrend above VWAP, and I just sold into it because it doesn't really trade that nicely. It was still a profitable trade, and I'm glad that I traded it. I'm glad I wasn't too far from my $30 risk level, but I mean, just having 2,000 shares would have made it just a bit more profitable, and yeah, that's definitely something I need to keep getting better at. Let's look at the next trade with BMIX, and this was on the 13th. So let's look at BMIX for the 13th. 13th is going to be right around here. Very scary day. This ended up being a wick. Very scary. Let's just take a look at the 13th. It looks like it had all of that in the morning. A nice morning spike. And if I can get it perfectly, that will be nice. This was a bull flag. First dip towards VWAP. I was in at 951 at 244. So 951 was right here. I'll zoom in a bit more. 951, I was in it right here at 244, I believe. Let me be sure about that. Yeah, 244 at 951. Why did I get in? It does look like a bull flag. I mean, this thing went from this 20 level as high as 27.5, which is a lot in terms of percentage, and then it drops, right? And it's also below VWAP. It's holding, it's consolidating, minus this little wick right here, which was real. It actually did do this move. It's not like a random tick. And it does kind of look like a bull flag. And it did uptrend. The setup did work out. But I got out at 954 at 2484. So 954 was right here. And I got out at 2484. So this was around my average, this 248 level. That was essentially when I got out. And if I had to guess, I probably sold half of my position while it was uptrending. And I can probably draw a trend line right here based off of this price action. And yeah, you can see when it broke this trend line right here, this is when I got out of my last piece, when I completely closed the trade. So that was the thing with that. Let's just see if I have anything else in my notes. It seems like I did well. I just needed a trade according to a $30 risk level. So I guess, what, 6,000 shares? Because some of that is just fear, you know? Like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. You know, 24 is kind of close to 30. I need to actually stick to a $30 risk level because, you know, if the setup works out, I make that much more trading the right amount of size according to my current risk level. And then if I trade, you know, a $30 risk level and the setup doesn't work out, and then I have a bunch of trades where I didn't trade enough shares, that's going to be pretty bad. So I need to really stick to that. Let's look at TXTM. This is the worst rated out of all of them. It kind of worked out. I didn't trade my best, and I didn't, well, I think this will be pretty close to a $30 risk level. I'll actually change this one right here to a yes, because $27 is pretty close to 30. 24 and 21, that's starting to be a bit far from it, but 27 is not that bad actually. Let me just change the stats. I guess it's not gonna be that much. It's gonna be a 40%, but still better than 20. Let's look at TXTM for the 14th. And the 14th is right here. Not a very significant day right here, other than the fact that it did have a wick. It hasn't really had that big of a wick these other days, so this might have been a morning panic bounce play. Let's go ahead and zoom in the 14th, which is going to be right there. And this was a morning panic bounce play, gap down. I was in at 933 at 45, so I'm going to zoom in a bit more. I was in at 933 right here at, was it 45 or 44? 45. Why did I get in this? Well, this thing dropped much lower than where it was the previous day. It did close here at 50, and then it opens here much lower. It opens at 45, and it was actually holding that level. It didn't like just open, you know, much lower than the previous thing and then have a morning panic. It actually just traded back and forth. I got in when it looked like perhaps the 45 person at the ask was going to get out of its way and it could be a reversal setup, a spike, and it did get to 48. I got out at 935 at 473, so that was my average. 935, 473, so I probably sold right around here. You know, my average was right around this point. And I think I did my best. I mean, I sold probably half on an uptrend or in pieces, and then I sold the other half when it looks like maybe it's going to break a trend line. Although, yeah, I think I sold the last piece a bit too early. Yeah, I actually didn't sell the last piece when it was showing that it was going to break the trend line or breaking it. So I could have done a little better selling better, even though, you know, it didn't get much higher. If it were to have continued to get to the 50s or higher, and I sold my last piece when it wasn't breaking an uptrending trend line, that would have been pretty bad. Although in this case, again, it didn't really get much higher. It would have broken it later, even though, you know, it ended up being around the same price. Again, if it didn't downtrend here and it kept following the trend line that I could in theory have from maybe right here to here, you know, if it were to continue to follow it and I'm out of the position, because I sold the last piece too early because I was chicken or whatever. That would have been pretty bad. So yeah, that was a good reason to knock myself for that one. And let's look at the last trade, which is BMIX on the 14th. 14th is going to be right here. Actually, no, right here. Oh, yeah, the big red day. Okay, yeah, that's the, that was pretty impressive. I was in at 10:21 a.m. 10,000 shares at 151. Why? Tsunami, panic, reversal, long trend line break. We got another one of these reversal trend line breaks. 10:21, 151. So 10:21 was right here when I got in at 151. Exactly right here in this chart. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. Right here is when I got in. Why? Let's draw the trend line. I'm not trading rocket science. After a while, these setups start to be very, very similar. Whether it's Ethereum or OTCs, right around here. So I might have gotten in. Maybe my trend line was much closer. Let me see if I still have a chart. Yeah, my trend line was a bit closer on the day I actually traded it on eTrade Pro, which is my preferred platform for viewing stocks. But that was a thing in theory of what it did right here. It broke and I got in immediately. And you might say, okay, but how come in this case, you got in right as it broke it? This thing had more momentum, if you ask me, because it did drop from this 22 level as low as 14, which is huge in terms of percent difference. And this was all, not like Ethereum, this was all in just a morning. To see a stock that was as high as 275 now at 14 the next day, I felt like it was something where it could cause a lot of momentum the moment it breaks the trend line. And maybe I also saw something in the level 2 price action, and that's why I got in right there kind of early for this entry. So that's one thing to take into consideration. It's not too much of an exact science, although I was just talking about it. More often than not, they tend to have their own little differences, but that's why I got in right when it did it here, and it paid off. Obviously, it could have continued a downtrend. Maybe it just blips a little and it sells off even more and causes a bigger panic because it just got in all the people who were trying to get in for a reversal, perhaps. But that was a trade right there, and I did get out at 1024 at 1563. So 1024 was right here, 1563. So I got out essentially right here was my average. And yeah, it didn't really get to VWAP or anything like that. What it did was just turn around, no longer follow this, but this was the part where I was talking about previously where it didn't necessarily uptrend that much, although I did sell on an uptrend from where my entry was. It just consolidated. And then over a longer period of time, it went as high as 21, which is massive. I do regret not being a part of this when it was uptrending over a longer period of time, maybe not with the best volume, but when it breaks this VWAP, uptrends, and then it comes back to it and it holds it, this is like a confirmed breakout. This was something where I could have taken a buy at 17, and then it did get to 19 and a half, another higher low off of here, and that got as high as 21. Let's just see what a perfect best case scenario would have been if I were to sold at 21, just to show how impressive this was. Yeah, imagine making almost 40% of your money, $59 on a $151 position. That's a huge percent gain. And then if I did do the thing where I got in at 17 and maybe I sold at 19 too, let's see what that would have been. That would have been a 13% move, 22 bucks. Again, trading a $170 position, tiny positions. That's about it. There's a lot of things I could have done on this week to do a lot better, and I think the biggest thing was to not freaking miss out on Ethereum, because that was just a really impressive move. Again, it breaks a trend line, it uptrended in this case, but I like how it came back and then held consolidated a point that was no longer following this trend line, and then once it was showing signs of a reversal, it made a nice move. This wick did throw me off. Like, it just kind of made me not want to trade it so much. But I mean, you might have said this was a sign of an ultimate reversal too, because this is like the max panic, max whatever volume, and then it uptrends. So yeah, that's about it. There's always a bunch of things, and I think in this case, this showed a lot of the things I could have done better. This one was if I remember it, this one was a nice uptrending OTC, and I was watching it very carefully this day right here, wanting it to be a reversal when it breaks the trend line. It didn't do anything, but when it broke the day high later, I wasn't watching it. I could have had an alert with stocks to trade. This could have been a nice move from 35. It even got to 48, which I think is going to be real this wick. If not, it did downtrend, hold higher than this level right here, almost like a higher low, and then it made a follow-up move to 56. That's pretty much it for this week. I have a whole lot of things I need to keep getting better at, and God willing, that's what I'll try to do this following week. And thank you if you're still watching it at this point in the video. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask me anything. That's all I have for this weekly recap.